Bob Coleman made some news recently because he noticed that there are some movements, there are some big shipments of physical gold and silver from the LVMA London to the COMEX. Now, you might ask why. Why is that? Well, because, as you know, Donald Trump just announced it, 12 hours ago. He's going to slap 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Right? Do you see that news?
Yep.
Yep. So there's no exemption to anything. So what does that mean? That means gold and silver from Mexico and Canada, which are major gold and silver mining suppliers to the US, any gold and silver from these countries are going to have a 25% tariff. So what does that mean? That means if you're holding a lot of short positions of paper short positions on gold and silver at the COMEX, you better buy a crap load of physical gold and silver right now before February 1st so that you can cover yourself preemptively.
Wow. You're watching Capital Cause, and my name is Danny, and today's guest is Eric Yeung. Eric, thank you for making your trip back on the show, my friend.
Thank you, Danny. It's a pleasure to be on again.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just dive right in here, Eric. There's a lot of things to talk about. We are in day 2 of the second Trump term. We're going to cover all sorts of things, including China and Trump, the Chinese markets, the economy, the gold and silver markets. And towards the end, if you're still with us, we're going to cover some of this UAP stuff and if Trump will reveal any additional information from these drone sightings from a month ago. So stick with us towards the end if you're interested on that. But let's kick it off with you here, Eric. For you, what is most topical for you right now? What is the highlight, the top story for you?
I think the top story for me right now is the launch of the gold accumulate program in China at the Chinese banks, the Chinese national banks. That would be absolutely the top story. So do you know what that is, Danny?
No, go ahead and fill us in. What is that?
Okay. So in China, in the past, you can open a gold account at your bank, but that's just essentially paper gold. Okay? What I mean by that is when you buy these gold products at the banks in the past, you might not necessarily be able to convert that the gold in that account into physical gold. So essentially, it's just like you can equate it to sort of like a Western style gold ETF, like GLD. You can buy it; it tracks the price action of gold up and down, but you might or might not be able to convert it to physical gold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what happened in the past. Now, China launched the new product in the beginning of January 2025 at their 4 biggest national banks, which is the Bank of China, the Construction Bank, and etc. There are 4 of them, okay? And they launched this product called Gold Accumulate. So what this product does is it allows a one-to-one physical conversion of the gold that you own in your account. So essentially what you can do is you can, let's say you have 20 grams of gold in your account. You can withdraw that 20 grams of gold in a coin or bar form from your bank. So that's what that is. And when this news first broke out, a lot of people didn't believe it. They thought it was fake. And so we did a lot of research. We looked at Red Note, all the social media in China, and all the state-owned banks websites, and it's real. You can buy this product, open an account, and when you want to withdraw the gold, you can do so. And just to tell your audience, some of the banks have a minimal withdrawal amount of 10 grams, and others have a minimal withdrawal amount of 20 grams.
Are there any storage fees to all of this? I mean, it seems like
No,
a
no, it's just like a bank account.
wow.
That's how crazy it is. So what happened is once they launched that, a lot of people converted their I wouldn't say it like there's a lot, but not all of them. A big portion of people converted their RMB yen money into this gold accounts. So that's the big news.
And what do you anticipate being the implications of that?
Well, think about
Why is
this,
that important?
Danny. Think about this, Danny. Right? In the past, paper gold, you know, it tracks the price action of gold, which means that what backs it, a lot of it was futures products, right? Paper gold, pure paper gold. It wasn't real. Now, these products supposedly have a one-to-one backing it, and they allow, the most important thing is that they allow customers to withdraw the gold on a one-to-one basis. So that means, China is going to be importing a lot more gold as this product accelerates in terms of the number of people in China adopting it. So that's the huge deal.
Meanwhile, in the United
Um,
States, you have people accumulating Bitcoin, all sorts of meme coins. It's a stark contrast with what you're seeing in China.
yeah, so just give you a couple more examples, right? In 2023, the SGE, which is the Shanghai Gold Exchange, it delivered approximately 1,400. So that's 1,400 metric tons of physical gold to customers in China. This is SGE, so it's domestic. And a lot of that went into physical gold bullion and physical gold jewelry, like retail stuff,
Mhm.
right? And people, back then they paid approximately a 10 to 16% premium for these gold products. And they were willing to because, like I said, back in 2023 and 24, they have no other option. I mean, if they go to a bank and buy a gold product, it would be paper based, right? It's not physical. So they had no choice but to buy these gold jewelry, 24 karat gold jewelry, and 24 karat gold bullion from retailers and distributors and bite the bullet and pay the 10%, 16%, 20% premium. But now, in 2025 January, starting 2025 January, people can buy these gold accumulate products directly from the banks, and they can withdraw the physical gold on a one-to-one basis at a very low premium. So this is what I heard. The premium is below 1%
Wow.
for these bank gold accumulate products in China. So do you see like how it's going to change the game going forward? Without this product, Chinese citizens, businesses, etc., withdrew 1,400 metric tons of physical gold.
Whoa.
Now they're making it even easier to buy physical gold with a substantially lower premium at around, let's say, just say 1%. So imagine, you know, the amount of demand this is going to create. Now, don't just believe what I say. Look at, just go log into Rednote, look at type gold, and look at the amount of gold, the number of people that are buying gold right now in China. I know people are going to say, well, it's Chinese New Year, right? Fine. Log in after Chinese New Year and see what you can find.
It
People are
seems,
buying gold. Yeah, sorry. Go
no, I
ahead.
was going
Yeah.
to say, it seems like when this currency reset does happen with
Mm.
some sort of back into gold or commodities, the Chinese are coming out of this well ahead of anyone else on Earth, right? I mean, if their exposure to gold is able to reach these kinds of levels, I mean, don't they stand to just be head and shoulders above everyone else?
Absolutely. I mean, another reason why the Chinese people are buying so much physical gold right now is because the Chinese RMB yen to US dollar exchange rate, or should I say the US dollar, one US dollar right now is around 7.3 Chinese RMB yen. So the RMB yen depreciated in the last 6 months and is pushing the lower bounds of its depreciation, let's say, right? 7.3. If it breaks 7.3, um, above 7.3, uh, we are really going back to the exchange rate between the US dollar and RMB of, let's say, 2008. We're going back over 10 years. So the Chinese government doesn't want that to happen. Okay? So on one hand, you have the Chinese buying gold to hedge against that. On the other hand, the Chinese government is encouraging with the gold accumulated products, make it easier for Chinese citizens to buy gold. Now, with traditional logic, wouldn't you say that's kind of strange? Why would the Chinese government make it easier for citizens to buy gold if it's trying to it is trying to protect the RMB yen? Wouldn't that take money out of RMB yen to gold?
Yeah. What's
Do
the
you, do you, do
rationale?
you, okay, so the rationale is this, right? Um, in the case of China, because of China's huge trade surplus, US dollar trade surplus, and you know China just hit 1 trillion US dollars of trade surplus in December of 2024
Hmm.
for the entire year. Okay, so that's a new high. I mean, before it was I think 900 billion, so now it's at 1 trillion. Okay, so with its huge trade surplus, right? What China can do is it can take a bit of that and also encourage its citizens to buy physical gold at the SGE, and the SGE price gold at what currency? RMB yen, right? Not US dollars. But the West at the COMEX and in London at the LBMA, they price physical gold in US dollars, right? So gold is priced in two different currencies, US dollar and yen RMB. Okay? So in effect, these two currencies have one common denominator. What is that? Physical gold. Think about that. Physical gold is the common denominator between the
Hmm.
two currencies, right? So if let's say this is happening or has happened already in 2023 and 2024 for the most part, um, a lot of people in China buy gold, pushing up the price of gold in RMB yen. What happens in the West? If
Mm.
the price of gold in the West in US dollar terms don't follow, what happens? Let's say it doesn't go up, it stays or it drops, let's say, in US dollar terms, right? Well, then all the physical gold from COMEX and London, LBMA, would be drained and shipped to China.
Yep.
Okay, now, as a matter of fact, it did, even though the price of gold went up in the West, it did follow. There was an arbitrage in most of 2023 and 2024, right? Even though that happened, China still drained a lot of physical gold from the LBMA, from you know UK customs data. We talked about that last time. Jan Gold, he looked into that. He did extensive research on that, and it all showed up on the United Kingdom customs data that China has been withdrawing in excess of 50 tons of gold per month. in 2024 after May.
And so,
So yeah,
no, I was just going to say, I mean, this seems like a huge tailwind to spike the price of gold up.
yes. So that's one piece of it. China is adding oil to the fire, adding gasoline to the fire by creating this gold accumulate program. Because most of 2024, or actually all of 2024, all of 2023, when all this happened, the gold accumulate program didn't exist. So now there's this gold accumulate program, which really adds gasoline to the fire to what I just described, which is what happened in 2023 and 2024. Make sense?
Will they extend the same program over to silver?
Um, Silver is something a little bit different because China actually don't want the silver price to go up. China want,
Interesting.
because of China's industrial
Hmm.
needs of silver to build cheap electronics or even, let's say, EVs, right? Electric vehicles, which is a high-end product high value, high-end product that China manufactures. It needs a lot of silver. Like, I mean, I heard anywhere from 5 kilograms to 10 kilograms of silver that is needed per EV. So China in the past, I believe, has been working with the Western banksters to suppress the price of silver. Now, what changed in 2022, 23, and 24 is that the mining supply um, of silver actually went into deficit compared to the industrial demand starting 2022. So China, yes, is still trying to suppress the price of silver, but um, it it started stockpiling silver. It started buying a lot of silver because, of course, it needs the silver immediately for its industrial productions, and also is buying a little bit more silver just so that if the mining supply situation deteriorates even more, it has silver to support its industries. So that's we can revisit the silver situation because I think China in terms of its outlook on silver is going to be changing going forward.
I see.
That's what I think is going to happen because like I said, because it's doing high end products right now, high end products, and the West is not getting a cut of that. If Think about this, right? In the past, China made low end products, or they were OEM
Mhm.
manufacturers for the US, right? They didn't have their own brands. So the people who made the biggest cut out of the Chinese manufacturing situation were the Western companies, were the Western bankers, right? Banksters. But
Yeah.
now China has a comprehensive manufacturing supply chain and also has its own brands. It doesn't need the West. It's selling directly to consumer. So they are taking all that profit to themselves. So this part is just my personal assessment and prediction. I don't see why the Western banksters, whatever, would want to help China to suppress the price of silver going forward because China is no longer giving the West the biggest cut of that manufacturing value chain.
So
But
in much,
instead, it's actually yeah. Sorry,
I
yeah.
was going to say,
Go ahead.
so in much the same way that China's incentivized to spike the gold price, is the West therefore incentivized to spike the silver price? Granted, it would also spike their own industrial costs on their end, but would it be a sacrifice that they'd be willing to make?
Yeah. So I think you got it. I think China wants to spike the gold price because it wants to keep the RMB US dollar exchange rate within a tight range. Okay, I wouldn't call spike, but
Increase.
gradually go up,
Hmm.
increase, right? That would allow it's a lever that allows them to control the US dollar RMB yen exchange rate. So they're doing that. Gold price going up. They want to contain the silver price because they're using silver for the industrial production. It's going if the silver price go too high, it's going to eat into the margin, right? Because now they own the entire manufacturing value chain instead of before they were just the OEM manufacturer, right? The West, on the other hand, you're correct. Why would they keep it low? The only reason would be the humongous short positions that the bankers, that the bullion banks, the bankers, whatever, are sitting on. Other than that, it doesn't make any sense going forward for the West to help China contain the silver price. Because think about this, Danny. A lot of the international mining corporations, mining companies are owned by the West. We all you probably have like guests coming on your show complaining about that, right? That these miners are not making enough money, or some of them are not even making any money. They're
Right.
owned by the West, Western corporations. Why would they not make any money to subsidy China so that China can make more money in manufactured products? It doesn't make any sense. So I see eventually this is going to change. Maybe
Fascinating.
at some point, the West will at least the major players will get net positive or net long on the precious metals instead of net short, and then they would be ready to let silver go up naturally. So we can, at this in this juncture, we can talk about what Bob Coleman talked about,
Yeah,
which
go
is
ahead.
he Bob Coleman made some news recently because he noticed that there are some movements, there are some big shipments of physical gold and silver from the LVMA London to the COMEX. Now, you might ask why? Why is that? Well, because as you know, Donald Trump just announced it, I guess 12 hours ago. He's going to slap 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, right? Do you see that news?
Yep.
Yep. So there's no exemption to anything. So what does that mean? That means gold and silver from Mexico and Canada, which are major gold and silver mining suppliers to the US, any gold and silver from these countries are going to have a 25% tariff. So what does that mean? That means if you're holding a lot of short positions of
Wow.
paper short positions on gold and silver at the COMEX, you better buy a crap load of physical gold and silver right now before February 1st so that
Yep.
you can cover yourself preemptively.
Wow.
Now, that's why Bob Coleman, sorry, Coleman said that he sees a lot of physical gold and silver coming from London to the COMEX. So that would be the reason, like he is explaining. That's the reason why he think that like gold and silver is coming from London to the US.
What else do you see from not the upcoming, but the current Trump administration? How do you see relations with U.S. and China shaping up with Donald Trump at the helm?
Um, I think you don't see Donald Trump coming out to say in the first 24 hours of him becoming president, he didn't say I'll slap 10% tariffs on China. Not yet. I think what is happening is he already announced he wants to slap 10% tariffs on China. But as you know, slapping 10% on China across the board is going to increase inflation a whole lot in the US. Because China makes almost everything for the US. So I think what Trump has in mind by not actually announcing these tariffs officially on China in the first 24 hours of his administration is because he's using that as a negotiation tool with China. So he's negotiating right now with China.
Mhm.
That's what I think is happening. To see what he can get out of China so that he doesn't need to slap the 10% tariffs on China.
What is he aiming to get out of China?
Um, China traditionally has banned or closed its market to Western tech giants like Facebook,
Hmm.
Twitter, or X, right? Even Google is blocked in China. And as you know, Donald Trump's major campaign donors are the tech brothers, tech bros,
Yep.
like Peter Thiel. I mean, they all of them were, were at the inauguration. Like Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, right? I think Trump may ask China to open up some of that so that these Western companies can start making money in China as a as an exchange of the Trump administration not slapping these tariffs on China.
How easy do you, I mean, what's the likelihood of something like that passing? Because China well knows, I mean, these companies are all built pushing their data through into the US government. I mean, would they really sacrifice their population's user data just to avoid a 10% tariff?
I think they have to if they allow Western companies to come in, it will have to be like the TikTok model. What I mean is um, there will be like a separate kind of app, separate Twitter, separate Google app
Hmm.
that has all the data stored in China. This is not something I dreamed up. It's already being talked about in
I
China.
see.
That would be um, a compromise that China would accept, and then these Western companies can make money in China. So, but I want to loop back to the gold and silver
Sure.
situation that we just talked about, right? So now we have the gold accumulate program that China launched, and potential tariffs on Mexico and Canada, and what not potential. He already said that he's going to do it, and then potentially the UK as well. So the US, all these short positions are kind of unwinding, right? And I explained that if especially silver, if that unwinds, why would the West help China to suppress the price of silver, right? So what you have right now, almost we're getting there, is a perfect storm of demand from both East and West for gold and silver.
Yep.
Do you see that? Because in 2023 and most of 2024, it was really China that drove up both the price of gold and silver. But now we're heading into a situation. I should say China and also its citizens and also central banks around the world, right, buying gold. And silver is mainly China, India, and the BRICS countries buying silver, not really retail. But what I'm trying to say is, going forward, the West, headed by the US, is going to buy a lot of gold and silver. So now we're heading into a situation where everybody wants to buy gold and silver. So I don't know where the price is going to go, but if everybody wants to buy gold and silver, and the mining supply of silver is in a deficit,
Hmm.
and gold, I mean, everybody just buy the gold, they don't want to sell it. What's going to happen to the price of gold and silver, right?
Hey guys, quick pause. As you know, we are big proponents of physical gold and silver on this channel. However, the conundrum often arises, where do you put it? Do you put it in an above ground safe where it becomes a target for burglars, intruders, etc.? Or do you bury it underground? This is where Dirty Man's Safe comes in. This is a very simplified solution if you want to bury your gold or silver, or actually any valuables underground, whether it be alternative car keys, house keys, paperwork, legal documents, anything that's important to you, you can put in this bad boy right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at how it works. All right, so you're going to start off by digging a hole underground, sticking the tubular module in with the safe inside. You bury your valuables, and then whenever you want to extract it, boom, there it is. There's a string attachment. You just pull it out. Bada bing, bada boom. Check it out here. You have 3 different sizes: the girl safe, the man safe, and the old man safe, depending on how much you want to store in this thing. It's all about distribution. You want to diversify where you put your valuables. You don't want to just put them all in one place. And for more information, also click the link down below. All right, guys, let's get back to the video. What has a $2,700 gold price? What has a $32 silver price done over the course of the last year? Has it changed the calculus of the U.S. government, the West, and their monetary system in any significant way, or is more price action needed to really start to see something break?
But what do you mean by something breaking? Of what?
I mean, anything in the financial system that a higher gold or silver price would precipitate. Like a higher silver price, the higher the silver price goes, obviously it puts a damper on an industrial demand, right? Because a lot of these
Yeah.
missiles and military technologies, they all require silver. Electronics require silver, so there's a lot of industrial demand that comes from the silver side. If you see that silver price expand out to a sufficiently high enough valuation, will that eventually crash the economy? Will that cause a demand side form of depreciation? What do you see what I'm saying?
I think what you're referring to is not silver. The silver as a percentage of cost for these products is pretty low because silver is just laughably cheap, and you don't need as a percentage. You don't need a lot of silver to build, let's say, a solar panel or a or EV. Like I said, a couple kilograms would do, right? I think what you're talking about is copper, stuff like copper and aluminum, like the base metals. And I was just, looking at information today and listening to other people, and the base metals and soft commodities is going up right now in price. It's
Mhm.
already anticipating a weaker U.S. dollar. That's it, right? And I mean, like a recession is already priced in for all this stuff. So even like, let's say a recession actually arrives, I don't see these base metals going down too much. So to um, your question is really like, is it the chicken or the egg, right? Which come first? I think it all goes like what Milton Friedman said. It all comes down to the monetary policies of the U.S.
I
Everything
see.
else is a kind of reactionary result of that. That's what I see. Yeah,
Hmm. Understood. Well, hey, let's
yeah.
take it back to China for a second. Let's talk about some of the things going on in China's real estate market. China's real estate market has taken quite a licking over the last year or so. What do you make of the current real estate situation in China?
It's it's like the prices are going down. That's a fact. But the Chinese government's primary concern, is to fix is to get out of that balance sheet recession. That's what they call it. Okay, they're trying to get out of that. What I mean by that is there are a lot of bad debts that happened during the downturn of the real estate, control implosion in China. You have these real estate companies that are heading into liquidity crisis. They cannot fulfill the debt obligations, like Evergreen. That's the most famous example that you've heard of, I'm sure. So what the Chinese government is going to do, I think, after the negotiations with Trump is done, and let's see if like we actually get slapped with the 10% tariffs. I think the Chinese government is going to issue 1.4 trillion US dollars of RMB sovereign bonds, and the big chunk of that is going to be used to cover the losses of the local governments in China that hold these real estate company debts, and also to stimulate the market
I
so
see.
that economic activity picks up. So I see that. So that actually ties into something that I noticed that I actually written extensively about on my X account is that people say, well, like, you know, if China is going to issue 1.4 trillion US dollar equivalent of RMB sovereign bonds, where are they going to get the money? Is that money going to be printed? Like, is it going to be QE, right? So the way I see it, yes, probably a bit, or maybe not even, because remember what I just told you at the beginning of the show, Danny. China's trade surplus is $1 trillion right now, 1 trillion per year, and a lot of Western experts have pointed out that the Chinese sovereign bonds right now, the yields are extremely low, especially their long dated, long duration bonds, which in other countries like the US would have very high yields because you have the duration risk of holding that sovereign bond for 10, 20, 30 years, right? So normally that would be like, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5%. But in China right now, it's one, I believe it went down all the way to 1.6% the last time I checked for its 10-year. So people were wondering, is there something wrong with China? Why is it 1.6%? Well, guess what? Chinese government and the Chinese companies, especially state-owned companies, have been taking that trade surplus, that $1 trillion. They've been buying Chinese sovereign bonds. So you have more demand for the Chinese sovereign bonds, and China hasn't issued that $1.4 trillion sovereign bonds yet. So limited supply. What happens? Yield goes down to 1.6%. Do you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So why? So you would ask, why would China do that? Why would China let its yields drop so low? Well, because China is about to launch a $1.4 trillion sovereign bonds package. Wouldn't somebody borrowing money want like the yields to be as low as possible?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that,
Exactly.
right? So it's preparing for that, right? So once that launches, who knows how much of it will be picked up by its state-owned companies, its private companies, and the Chinese government subsidiary themselves, or if China has to directly do QE for some of that. We'll find out. Okay? So that's the, real estate market in a snapshot. So I think in terms of like to wrap it up, um, in terms of its balance sheet recession, I think China is going to resolve that with its upcoming issuance of $1.4 trillion of sovereign bonds. And in terms of the actual Chinese real estate market um, pricing, I think it's just going to drag it out, basically. It's going to let time heal it. That's what I think is going to happen.
I see. Before
Yep.
we move into other topics, one more thing regarding China. In the US, you're seeing this advent of a Bitcoin reserve being talked about, what is the role of Bitcoin and crypto in China? I don't hear much about crypto in as it relates to China. What's kind of the outlook there?
Bitcoin and cryptos are not legal in China, and
Mm,
the banks in China they won't take your crypto or do business with crypto exchanges. So you essentially can't do anything with
mm.
cryptos or Bitcoin in China.
Well, that makes sense then.
That's the quick answer. And if you want to buy crypto and Bitcoin in China, you have to go to Hong Kong because it's completely legal in Hong Kong. Hong Kong.
Why is it illegal?
It's legal in Hong Kong,
Yes,
illegal
but
in China.
yeah, but why
Yeah.
is it illegal in China?
Why is it illegal in China? Because it's a it's basically a gap or a route for people to circumvent China's
Mm,
capital controls.
I see.
That's what it is. China has strict capital controls, and they cannot allow people to, buy these cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and circumvent that. Now, in China, you can transport gold in and out of China. So you can import a maximum of 50 grams of gold into China, and you can export personally a maximum of 200 grams of gold out of China per trip.
I see.
But
Well,
that
anything?
they can control, right? That they can monitor and control. Yeah.
Yeah, makes total sense. Anything else you want to cover regarding China and Trump and the economy before we move on to the UAP topic?
I think, we talked a lot about, China's economic situation and the US as well. And, what we got to do is just wait at this point to see what Trump does and see what China does in response. And of course, don't write off Canada and Mexico. We got to see what they're going to do, right? If that 25% of tariffs are actually going to go through on February 1st, which is only a week away.
Yep.
That's it. That's my final comment on that.
Yep. Well, there you go, guys. If you enjoyed this podcast so far, and the UAP topic isn't really for you, then don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Do us a real good solid here. We're going to move into the drones, the UAP, Donald Trump's recent comments about them yesterday at the time of this recording, and what they could possibly disclose. So if that's two out there for you, you can go ahead and tune out. But we're about to dive right into some bonus content for those who are interested. I'll let you take it away here, Eric. What's the latest from you? What are some of the key points that should be on the radar screen for people interested in this topic? We did have Donald Trump come out the other day and say he wanted an investigation as to what those drone sightings were, or UAP sightings, because they weren't all drones, right? What is Trump signaling, and what do you anticipate moving forward as it relates to these UAPs?
So as you know, Danny, the orbs, the glowing orbs, they never stopped. They keep showing up in the skies of New Jersey and all over the world. And they are continuing their intrusion into U.S. military bases airspace. So that never stopped. So Donald Trump asked the question: why is it that the U.S. military is allowing these ops to come in without shooting them down? If they're adversaries, if the ops are from U.S. adversaries, U.S. enemies like China, Russia, Iran, why is it that the U.S. military is allowing them to fly over the bases without shooting them down?
Mm-hmm.
We'll find out, right, within the next 12 to 24 hours, because Donald Trump is saying that he's going to answer that, right? We don't need to speculate on that. But, since we last talked, there's also been some spectacular, interesting news that a special ops team or a person, operator, from a highly classified program in the U.S. came out as a whistleblower, and he said that he was personally involved in transporting an egg-shaped UAP. He believed it's non-human intelligence UAP back when he was still in the program, the highly classified program um, that worked for a U.S. military contractor that ran a SAP, which is the Special Access Program. Okay, now all that just transpired since we last talked. What happened during Trump's inauguration? He told Elon Musk that America is going to Mars. America is going to send people to Mars. How much do you think that will cost, Danny, to do that, to colonize Mars
To
in
colonize
terms of US
Mars.
dollars? Yeah, like
Yeah,
send people over there, build a base. How much do you think that will cost
I think that would
to do
cost
that?
in what, the tens of billions?
Well, probably a couple hundred billion at least,
Yeah.
right? Maybe even a trillion. Do you think that they are doing all that for nothing? I mean, where's the monetary gain for that, you
Hmm.
think? What did they make out of that?
Why did we
I
go to the
mean, like
moon? Well, I mean, it's the same question as to why did we go to the moon? Was it for monetary gain, or was it
maybe
just to kind of lift the spirits of the population?
yeah, but the US wasn't in humongous debt back then,
Hmm.
like right now, right? And also, how do you know what they found on the moon? I mean, you follow the remote viewing situation of the US military, which is some of it is declassified, right? And what they saw stuff on the moon
What did they see?
that
And
well
explain
they
remote
saw
viewing. Explain remote viewing for people who may not know, really quick.
well remote viewing is people who have psychic abilities who can telepathically see things that are happening that is not in front of them, like thousands of miles away or even millions of miles away. They can see stuff like that. That's remote viewing. It's basically telepathically seeing stuff that is happening.
Yeah, and it has been declassified, guys, that the military does work with this stuff, and has done so for decades now. So
Yeah.
go ahead. What did they find on the moon, though, when they reviewed the moon?
Um, uh, bases on the moon, on the
Mm.
dark side of the moon. I mean, it sounds crazy, but again, why would they spend that money back then to go to the moon, right? I mean, some people think that is a conspiracy. They never went to the moon. It happened in a at a Hollywood studio. Some people say, right? I believe it's real, and if it's real, then why did they do it? What did they find? Right? There were minutes of footage that were blacked out of the filming of stuff that happened on the moon. What happened during that blackout? Right?
Hmm.
So they must have found something on the moon. That's what I think.
Did they
And
provide
they
any
probably
details? Did they provide any
ex-
details on what these bases looked like?
um, the remote viewing guys just said they saw UAPs going in and out of these bases.
Mm.
That's what that's what I learned from the from some of these broadcasts. But let's get back to Mars. So what? Maybe they found something on Mars from the NASA expeditions, right? So so if they found something on Mars that is critical to humanity's next step, or even to the U.S. hegemony, it gives the U.S. an edge militarily for the next 1,000 years. Then it's worth it to spend $500 billion or $1 trillion to go to Mars, right?
Yep.
That's the way I see it.
There's got to be
And
there's got to be a monetary
yeah,
incentive.
Exactly. So what I think, my personal theory is that they probably found element 115 traces on Mars, and that's why there's a race to go to Mars to build a base and to dig all that stuff out. Now that
Is
would be
anyone
worth it.
else outside of the U.S. trying to get to Mars though?
Well, China might be. China is building a lot of rockets, right? They're trying to build a moon base first right now. China is experimenting with lunar soil to build a moon base. So China's plan, as my understanding, is to build a moon base first and use that moon base as a springboard to go to Mars.
Mm.
Okay, so it's the new space race, and I think you know there might be element 115 on Mars, and that's why the U.S. want to get there, and same reason for China.
Could
It's
it?
interesting because we talked about 115 the last time I was on your show, and some people in the comments said that, well, does Eric know that they artificially made element 115 on Earth, but it just existed for like a fraction of a second because it's radioactive, right? So yes, I know those are the unstable isotopes of element 115. But Bob Lazar specifically said that there is a island of stability, an isotope of element 115 that is stable, that would not, change into something else in a fraction of a second. For
What
example,
and what's so
the gold.
special? Go.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll let you finish this, but explain to the audience really quick who may not have seen the last video between you and I.
Yeah.
What is so special about element 115? Why is it so valuable?
So according to Bob Lazar, the basically element 115 has a bleed out, a detectable bleed out of the atomic strong force.
Hmm.
Okay, atomic strong force is the force that holds together the nucleus of an atom, and the element 115 has a bleed out, which means a slight excess amount of the nuclear strong force. And Bob Lazar calls that nuclear strong force the gravitational wave B. Gravitational wave A is the gravity that me and you are familiar with, right? It's the gravity that the sun, the earth has. That's on the macro scale. The gravitational wave B is essentially the strong force that is subatomic, right, within the
Hmm.
nucleus. So the element 115 has an excess amount of that the NHI, the non-human intelligence, have figured out how to amplify. That's how they create a localized gravitational field by amplifying that.
I see.
Yep.
And so Bob Lazar implicated Mars of having
No,
element
that's
one.
that's from me.
Us from you. Okay.
I'm just speculating, right? I'm just speculating that there must be something there that is of huge importance.
Hmm.
That's why they got to go to Mars. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
What if they just
I
don't want to
mean,
put all their eggs in one basket, i.e., Earth? If an asteroid
you
hits
think
Earth, then humanity's done.
you think those guys are going to like they can't even fix like San Francisco. They're not even willing to like clean up San Francisco. You think they really care about humanity to that scale? I don't think so. I think it's about money and power. That's what
What
I
are
think.
what about the notion that these UAP sightings are not extraterrestrial, but from within our own government? These are black budget projects. They're not officially on the books, but I got this from one of my good friends. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but his feeling of the situation was that the natural resource outlook of the world is very scarce. We have industrialization happening across a lot of the developing world, and we have all of these big, grandiose objective. And this is essentially why the what the Great Reset was trying to address. But that's I think that's been put on the back burner because his idea was that the United States or the West or whoever has this technology is beginning a slow rollout of this free energy gravitic technology because they essentially have no other choice but to roll it out now because the existing legacy system just doesn't have the materials and the natural resources necessary to keep it going. So they're going to have to start accessing and democratizing, for lack of a better term, this hidden technology that's been developed in the background for at least the last 100 years or so. What do you make of that?
So if the US has technology, propulsion systems, gravitational field propulsion systems that can go faster than the speed of light, essentially instantaneously, go from New York to Moscow, why wouldn't they just kidnap Putin and disable all the nuclear weapons that Russia has in
Maybe
an
Russia
afternoon?
has it. Maybe Russia has it too.
Maybe, but I mean, if that's the case, the US can do a preemptive strike and just finish them immediately. Why wouldn't they do that? I don't think they have it. I don't think I truly think that maybe they have deciphered some of the technology from the NHI, like directed energy weapons. I mean, it's a fact that they have it, right? I mean, the U.S. Navy have done tests on it. Lockheed Martin has shown, videos of the testing of these directed energy weapons. So I think on the weapon side, they have made headway, but on the propulsion side, I just don't see any evidence that the U.S. has that kind of technology that they have successfully reverse engineered. That's the way I see it.
Mhm.
Yep.
I think I mean, this covers pretty much everything I had on the UAP side. Anything else that we didn't get to regarding UAPs before we close things out?
I think we're good. I think we just need to, like I said, Danny, so much is happening on a daily basis. We just need to wait another maybe 24 hours to find out what maybe Trump confirms everything I said, right? Maybe Trump confirms everything you just said. He might come out and say, we got a wonderful fleet of anti or gravitational field drive vehicles or crafts that can instantaneous travel to Mars. Then there, you're right. He he authenticated your theory, right? Or maybe he tells um, the public what I've been telling you, right? That NHI is real, and that the US has a UAP retrieval program for the last 70 years, and they need more talented scientists to join these programs to help America reverse engineer these UAP crafts. So we'll find out.
Yeah, hopefully so. All right. Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Tell people where they can find you.
They can find me at King Kong 9888 on X. That's where I
Fan-
am.
Fantastic. We'll have the links to that down below. Be sure to follow Eric there. If you enjoyed this podcast, remember to give us a like and comment down below. Go, Eric, go. If you disagreed with anything, however, which I'm sure there's plenty of opportunity to disagree between me and our back and forth about the UAP stuff, drop us a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode, and check us out on Substack, capitalcosm.substack.com. The URL is also down below in the description box as well as the pinned comment. Support the channel that way by becoming a paying customer, and you'll get early access to all of our videos, ad-free versions, and uncensored versions whenever they warrant it. And so with all that said, Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye, y'all.